Hello students, good morning all of you. Today I Rabindra Mohan Misra from Sri Jagdamba Sanskrit College Batho am taking the class of Shastri first. Today we are doing revisions for our coming examination. In course of this, today we see Milton's poetic style. Milton's work differs significantly from the epic tradition of Greco-Roman antiquity, the Middle Ages, and the Renaissance. Earlier epics developed ideas of heroism that celebrate martial valor, intense passions such as wrath or revenge, and cunning resourcefulness. If indeed such traits of epic heroism are retained by Milton, they tend to be embodied in Satan. In other words, Milton uses the epic form simultaneously as a critique of an earlier tradition of heroism and as a means of advancing a new idea of Christian heroism for which the crucial virtues are faith, patience, and fortitude. Undoubtedly, this idea of heroism was influenced by Milton's personal experience with adversity and by his public service as a polemistic and an opponent of austere absolutism and the episcopacy of the Church of England. Under attack from his adversaries, Milton, from his perspective, was the advocate of a righteous cause that failed. The triumph of his adversaries, his solitude after the restoration, and his struggle to understand how and why, under the surveillance of province, evil seemingly prevailed, and other questions presumably impelled him to modify an earlier plan to compose a British epic on Arthur. At the same time, however, one may acknowledge that some traditional traits of epic heroism are embodied in characters such as Shun. Surely, wrath and martial effectiveness are manifested in the war in heaven much, but Milton more if emphatically affirms that the greater triumph of the Son is his voluntary humiliation on behalf of mankind. Accordingly, faith, patience, and fortitude are the crucial virtues to be exercised by the Son in his redemptive ministry, which he has agreed to undertake because of meekness, filial obedience, and boundless love for humankind. Heroism is simply one of a series of epic conventions used but adopted by Milton. Another is the invocation of the muse, who is not precisely identified whether the Holy Spirit or more generally, the spirit of Godhead. At times, Milton alludes to the classical muse of epic poetry, Urania. The intent, however, is to identify her not as the source of inspiration but as a symbol or imperfect type of Hardwaric Christian muse through which the divine word was communicated to prophets or embodied in Jesus for dissemination to humankind. A third convention is intrusion by supernatural beings, action that takes place throughout the epic when, for example, the Godhead sends Raphael to forewarn Adam and Eve of the dangers of Satan, or when the Son descends to Eden as the judge of humankind after the fall. In Adam's vision of the future, the Son's role as the incarnate Christ and the unfolding of his redemptive ministry are highlights. The descendant into the onward, a fourth epic convention, occurs in Paradise Lost as early as Book First, which shows the punishment of the fallen angels in Helen. A fifth convention is the interrelation of love and war. The love of Adam and Eve before and after their expulsion from Eden is central to the epic, but the self sacrifice of the Son on behalf of fallen humankind is the most magnanimous example of love. Warfare in Paradise Lost is sensational when the good and evil angels clash and as the Son expels Satan and his followers from heaven. But the epic develops another form of struggle, humankind's experience of temptation after Satan conceals his malice behind external friendliness and solicitude. Finally, the style of Paradise Lost included the extended similes and catalogues, is a sixth epic confection. Across several lines, the narrator compares Satan's enormous size with that of the Titanus. Later, we see both simile and catalogs when examined closely, particularly in Asian Minor, provide insight into another but related aspect of her style while contributing to Milton's grand design. Each book in the epic has distinctive features. The first book begins with an invocation. In it, Satan speaks in a still false hope in the angel who are gulled by his public posturing, but the narrator alerts the readers to Satan's duplicity. Privately, the arch-fiend is in a state of despair. By the end of Book First, the fallen angels assemble in a palace called Pandemonium to deliberate on a course of action. Book 2 opens with the Satan's enthroned above the other angels. The first of the speaker of the address of the topic, a ongoing warfare with God, is Moloch, the warrior angel who urges his cohorts to ascend heavenward and to use black fire and thunder as weaponry. Next, we see that all the gates of hell Satan across depth that is not well organized. Book 4 begins with a soliloquy by Satan, the speech that was to be have opened the drama Adam and Paradise. At this point, the so-called heroic nature of Satan as the archetypal rebel is offset by his candid awareness that downfall was caused by his own ambition. If, at the outset of Book 5, recounts her dream, it is evident that Satan has appealed to her potential for vainglory, the narcissistic inclinations towards self-love, which when magnified disproportionately would elevate her above Adam. Approximately one third of the angels rally behind Satan, who leads them in the 3-day war in heaven, is the subject of Book 7. After the invocation, Book 7 includes an account of creation which elaborates on the catalogues of Genesis to highlight how the plenitude, continuity, and gradation are manifestations of God's benevolence. Most significance is the interactive relationship of male and female principle in nature. Across books 5 to 7, the begetting of the sun, Satan's sinfulness, the war in heaven, and creation are episodes that build towards a pointed commentary by Raphael on the relation of Adam and Eve. Again, the invocation of Book 9 recapitulates Milton's earlier plan to write an epic on hitherto the only argument heroic deemed the exploitation of fables knights like Arthur. In this way, he, he is implementing a strategy of deception. Satan conceals his true nature behind disguise, whereas the Son, by becoming human, intends to reveal and implement the divine plan of salvation. In her first speech to Adam in Book 9, Eve proposes that she and Adam divide their labors because their mutual affection has diverted them from their duties of gardening. Adam counters her proposal by affirming that